Hi everyone, and welcome to Brunel University London, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Manny and I work for the marketing department at Brunel. We hope you and your family are keeping well during these tricky times, and we'd like to reassure you that we are operating as normal as possible at Brunel, albeit from a virtual environment for the time being. So I will shortly hand you over to our academic presenter, Dr Ivan Girina, who will carry out a presentation on the postgraduate digital games theory and design. We'll give you a kind of a complete overview of the course, and you'll also have the opportunity to ask any course-related questions you might have to our academic today. We also have a couple of international recruitment individuals who will be able to answer any questions you may have regarding the international application process. If you did have any questions today, please just type them into the questions box and we'll answer them throughout, and once the presentation is over, we'll go over some more. So without further ado, I'll now pass you on to Dr. Ivan Girina, who will carry out a presentation on studying the Master's Digital Games Theory and Design at Brunel University London. Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Ivan. It's very nice to meet you guys, even if virtually. As said before, I hope you're all doing well in these trying times. I'm here today to present. First of all, I should introduce myself. I am the program convener, the program leader for the Masters in Digital Games Theory and Design. I'm here to give you an overview both of the contents, the team, and the structure of our MA. So here is an overview of the first members of the team. You will notice throughout this slide that we try to infuse our representations with a little bit of character, representing what we do and who we are. We're all coming to these masters from different paths, but we're all equally invested in video games and gaming culture. So Chris Cox is the division lead and is a senior lecturer. THALEIA DENIOZOU, it's a lecturer in art. MARIZA DIMA, it's a lecturer in creative technology. And then myself, I'm a lecturer in game studies. Finally, I will introduce you to the final members of the teams teaching on this program. ANDRA IVANESCU, Dr. ANDRA IVANESCU is a lecturer in game studies like myself. MICHAELIDES, who is a lecturer in technology, and Justin PARSLER, the most senior person on the member among the member of staff, who is a reader in design. So this is just before I start talking a little bit about us, and that will give you a better understanding of what we do and what we teach and how we teach it in our program. I want to stress why digital games theory and design. These are masters that we have been running for now quite a few years, and we've recently redesigned, asking ourselves what is that we bring to the table when it comes to educate in relation to games. And while you might find a lot of courses on games around, particularly in the UK, I must say it will be hard to find another program with the specificity on and the focus on game design that we have. In fact, I would suggest that not only this is one of the best programs, to be honest, in the country for games design, but most importantly, that when you come to us, you're not coming to study programming, you're not coming to study art, you're coming to study games design, and everything else that you see in these slides related to games art, game technology, game studies even, it's only done and it's not only taught to the extent to inform your practice as game designers. As game designers, what you will be expected from the industry to bring and to provide, it's almost a directorial view, right? You will have to understand all departments of game making. You will have to understand the philosophy of video games, what a video game is and how it's created, both in its more creative process, but also in its technical one. And that's why we will expose you almost mirroring industrial processes. So we expose you during the program to all departments of game making, from making your own assets to coding, even if at a basic level, and experimenting to technology. What you need to do is not to become a specialist artist, is not to become a specialist programmer, but to understand the language of all these professionals in order to coordinate them within a team, within the industry. But most of all, you will see what you learn, it's a games design skill. But let me introduce you a little bit more to us, the team, and what we do. This is Chris Cox, is the division lead for the old digital arts. He has a BA in games. He has the BA games design root leader, and he's the main person for games design. You will see him teaching particularly in the interdisciplinary module that I will talk a little bit about in a second. Chris does not only come from an academic background of arts and performance, but he has like years of experience in the industry. He has worked with big companies such as Microsoft. He has worked on big brands such as Wings and on a variety of video games. So Chris is really one of those members of staff that brings in the expertise and knowledge from the industry to the team. Chris is also a terrific teacher. He has won various awards for teaching and tutoring, and as a deputy senior tutor. He's a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, and he's really invested in making sure that the team is constantly updating its pedagogy and teaching practices. I won't hide that generally student satisfaction is really high within the university in relation to the game design program, and we are quite proud of the fact that our students have a great experience when they come to us. Next in line is Dr. DENIOZOU, who is the architect of the new masters. She redesigned the master in this new shape that we've already run the past year. Talia has a PhD in digital arts. She's an artist and she teaches in general everything that is related to art making in video games, from concepts art to the creation of two-dimensional assets on Photoshop to 3D and Maya. Most likely you will not even have to use 3D software for these masters, because what we want you to do is to develop those skills that get you going with the other professionals, with the other professional figures in a team for game making, right? Talia will teach stuff like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, to really curate your assets that then are gonna inform and be used in your final prototypes. Yes, you will be designing actual games and prototypes in the course of this program. She teaches the courses of interdisciplinary game design, on game art, and as myself and everyone else is also a possible supervisor for your dissertation. This is Mario Michaelides. He's the Director of Teaching and Learning for Arts and Humanities at Brunel, and he's also the lead for the technology route. So that's what he does. Mario really Mario's practice is focused on design in relation to technology. So he looks a lot at interfaces, physical hardware, but also software interfaces, and how to inject design with the understanding of new and experimental technology. He has a long-lasting career in higher education, spanning across 14 years. He's a specialist in prototyping UI and UX, and he's also senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy. He teaches on the interdisciplinary module, on the games development module. That's the module where you will get your hands dirty with tech, and of course is a supervisor for the dissertations. This is Dr. ANDRA IVANESCU. She's like me, one of the two components of the theory part of this master's in digital games theory and design. ANDRA has a PhD in ludomusicology. What it means, it's that she's really an expert, and you can see this from her publications, really an expert on music in video games, not only in terms of their effects and their aesthetics, but also how music plays in relation to design, how we use music as a cue or as an instrument to navigate our virtual worlds. She has a research interest in para-musical connotations of video game music. That means, for example, she's interested in researching the ties between the music industry and the video game industry. I'm sure that a lot of you have seen that. For example, companies like Riot now have their own bands and produce music out of their games and commercialize that music. She does music and semiotics, but also she looks at all sorts of cultural practices around video game representations, such as borrowing, appropriation, and influence. She teaches and leads the module in game studies. MARIZA, Dr. MARIZA Dimas, she's an expert in human-computer interaction and designer, and she's a creative technologies. She has an expertise in UI. You can see from this cute picture that this is one of her installation when she's experimenting with synthetic ends, right? So she has 10 years experience in directing R&D, research and development for digital innovation projects. She just won last year an amazing grant to work with a historical site in London and create an augmented reality experience in which the viewers can use augmented reality glasses to go back in time and sort of see different times in these beautiful places. She has a research interest in games for change. For those of you that don't know, games for change, those are generally serious games that have a commitment to some kind of ethical or political message. She does user experience design for multisensory interactive experiences. She deals with embodiment, again, seen from the picture, it's quite clear. Design for social transformation and audience engagement. MARIZA teaches on the games art module, and she's also supervisor for the dissertation. And finally, well, not finally, this is me. I'm Ivan. I have a PhD in film and television studies from the University of Warwick. I'm also a fellow of the Higher Education Academy. I'm an editor for the Game Journal, which stands for Games as Art, Media and Entertainment. I consulted in the past for transmedia issues, particularly if you look at the picture on Resident Evil Vendetta. I consulted on the marketing for the UK release of the movie. My research interest really lies at the intersection between video games and film. So I do apply media theory, particularly of the audiovisual kind, to understand how video games work and what video games are, right? So in my classes, I teach things like video game and philosophy, video game ontology, video game aesthetics. I also have an interest in regionalism and regional media cultures and in media literacy and education. I do teach an introduction to game theory and game studies for the interdisciplinary module. Then I teach also a little bit of video game aesthetics in the game studies module, and I am a potential supervisor for your dissertation. Finally, this is Justin Parsler, is our most senior member of staff. He has like decades of experience in the video game industry. He has worked across a number of companies, but also published on quite important volumes on the topic of game design, such as Digital Culture, Play and Identity, a World of Warcraft reader. he has been doing this job and teaching video games for the past 10 years, actually, as more than 40 commercial titles in his portfolio since 1986. And his research really revolves around the way in which players are empowered. Justin is really fond of the term agency, that if you join our classes, you might very well come to know as one of the main aesthetic category when it comes to our video game experiences. He teaches on the interdisciplinary games design module, and then he teaches the beefy game design module in term 2, and is a potential supervisor for your dissertation. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the modules and the structure of the program now. So in term 1, you will have the interdisciplinary module. If you have seen our prospectus, you will see, you will know that the interdisciplinary module is a sort of way in which the team decided to ease in students from all backgrounds into the practice of games design. This is an intensive 5 weeks in which we train students that come from a variety of backgrounds into all aspects of game design. Consider this a sort of introduction. You will do a little bit of those things that then you will do more deeply in the modules, in the rest of the modules of term 1 and term 2. And out of this first interdisciplinary module, we will require you and ask you to produce your first game. Not a complete game, but to pitch a design project for us, explaining and using research and scholarship to explain us why your game is innovative and why your game is interesting, but also showcasing how you use the art already and explaining, which is the most crucial thing, what your design pillars are, what your design revolves around. After these first weeks, you will do 2 modules in term 1, game studies, concepts, context, and analysis, which is taught by me and Dr. IVANESCU, and the art games development, prototyping tools, methods, and techniques module, which is led by MICHAELIDES. Consider this your first big foundation of theory in game studies, which is the theoretical module. You will address topics, as I was anticipating, such as video game aesthetics. Why do we like video games? Why play is important in our culture? One thing that I always like to quote is Johan Huizinga, who is a very famous and important Dutch scholar that already in 1930s states that play is longer and more last-lived than culture. Animals have been playing much before we started to speak and to discuss philosophy. So play, which is very not considered important often in our society, it's actually a pillar of our existence, not only for human beings, but also for animals. And then you will move on with ANDRA, who teaches representations, politics. You will talk about the military industry and the relationship with the video game industry. You will talk about very interesting and challenging topics such as death and video games and the cultural understanding of concepts such as life and death through the mediatized environment of video games. And then you will move on to the art games development module, which is a little bit misleading in the title because this is really the tech module. Here you will learn how to use, for example, Click and Fusion and to create your first prototypes. Here you will have to produce your first small levels in video games, and out of the first term you will have already produced something playable, and Mario will make sure of that. That is informed, of course, by a new design philosophy that you will come up with in your first weeks. Yes? Oh, sorry, I heard some background noise. Then term 2 Term 2 is where you actually will address the games design module, engagement, experience, and iterative practice. Justin will teach you a little bit further into the practice of game design, particularly numerical design. So you will learn how to organize your game mechanics into numeric system that allow us to play. And THALEIA and MARIZA will teach the art, thinking for games, visual design, creativity and style module. Here you will learn to create assets. You will use Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. You will experiment mostly with 2D, but potentially also with some 3D art making. And yeah, like you will at the end of this year create your own assets and use them for your prototype and for your games. Finally, in the last term, summer term, you will take the MA Game Dissertation Theory and Practice. This is your final piece of work. It's a big project that you undertake throughout the summer, and it consists of a 8,000 words thesis with a practical component. Consider this a 50-50 dissertation. 50% is your theory piece, just reflecting the nature of this program, and 50% is your practice piece, your game. You will have not necessarily to create a whole game, but depending on where your interest lies, you may focus the practical component a little bit more on the art side, a little bit more on the tech side, or just pure design document, create the whole design document for your game. I'm going to talk a little bit about our facilities and our communities. Students in our program have access to the Games Lab, which is open 24 hours and access via ID cards is secure. This is a beautiful space, as you can see in the pictures, with updated desktop computers that you can not only use for work, which you're expected to. So we don't ask you to buy, as long as you are attending our lab, you don't ask you to buy any software or any hardware. You can use freely everything on our machines, and you will have your own memory to save your project. But this is also, and most importantly, a social space for students. I must compliment and commend our students for handling a perfect balance between professionalism and being friendly and using this space as a social space. So mostly during the working hours, you will see students from across all the years at Brunel focused on the project in this lab. And then a little bit later, as the day goes by, people easing into a more relaxed atmosphere, help each other with the project, and most importantly, the game. You will have access to our game libraries in the lab, and all sorts of things happen. They have LAN parties and so on and so forth. Then this is our design room. This is a creative space that we use to think about our design, and not only is this another place where we teach and practice our games design, it's also a social space with a selection of board games. Board games are really important. You will learn at the beginning of game design looking at board games, because at the end of the day, what this is one of the best programs in the country teaching games design. And games design means teaching how game mechanics are created for us to enjoy the experience of play, right? You will also have access to consoles in this room, and this is one of those rooms that you have to swipe a card, so it's quite secure and can be used quite flexibly throughout the day. Finally, these are just some of the extracurricular activities that you can undertake if you join our program. We are members of UKI, which is the professional groups for the game industry in the UK, and we are also members of the Global Game Jam. I will not talk about that right now, because if you follow the game industry, you will know that there are some issues right now around the institution of the Global Game Jam, but be sure that we do participate to game jams. and you should too, because game jams are an incredible opportunity for you to focus for 48 or 72 hours and create game. That means that if you do 2 game jams in the year on top of your dissertation, you will probably have at least 3 done games in your portfolio, which is a terrific thing to have when you look for potential employers. We also have seminar talks, which is the poster on the right. We have scholars, intellectuals, professionals coming from the industry that regularly come to our department to give beautiful talk, which will involve both undergraduate and postgraduate as one big intellectual community. I'm really fond of these because these are the moments in which you challenge your assumption on gaming. You challenge what you think you know about gaming, and leaders and experts in the field bring you these notions and this information. Okay. These are potential employers that have hired our students in the past. I want to hide that we're quite proud of these. Our students have gone on to work for companies such as Riot, King, Rockstar, Rovio, Microsoft. Our very dear friend from London is Mediatonic, that has a lot of our, that in the past has hired a lot of our graduates, but also companies such as Ubisoft, the now defunct Lionhead Studios, Zynga, and BBC. You will not only be able to work for games company out of this master, but for any creative agency that is interested in game-like content. That's why the logo of the BBC there is very important, because we are constantly and increasingly encouraging our students to think of prospective employers outside the mainstream video game industry. A lot of marketing agencies will be interested in people with content competences in games design to tap into what is called gamification, which is the understanding of ludic and game-like structures to promote materials and contents, for example. And finally, why Brunel? Why games in London? Why Brunel especially? This is just a short map. You can see these slides up later. This is a very small amount of the many companies, video game companies, that populate the London area. London is one of the biggest hub for video game development in the world, and probably the biggest one in Europe, quite surely the biggest one in Europe. So this is a terrific place where to create your network. If during the week you will be studying and attending our courses, in the weekends we will encourage you to attend seminars, panels, and congresses around video game making, not only with scholars, but mostly with the industry leaders. Sorry. I wanted to stress that one of the things that we're really proud of and we like about our program is the close-knit community. Students, we have a lot of peer studying and peer support to students from across different years and even from across different degrees, such as undergraduate and postgraduate students support each other, provide advice to each other. And this ties into what I was saying before about the lab. The lab is a crucial and very rare space that is only for our students, only for game students, in which students from different years can mingle and provide support and create a community together. We have a range of expertise throughout our staff that combines top-notch scholarship with extremely experienced professional from the industry. This is a cutting-edge industry and discipline. I don't have to tell you how growing the video game sector is, but most of all, what we expect from all of us and everyone that comes to our program is a passion for games. we do love playing games together. We have social events, we play board games together, we play online games together occasionally. So we do have this passion for games that we share with our students. I'm just going to show you a little bit of information. You can follow the links later to understand a little bit more contextual information on Brunel and, for example, scholarship. We offer more than 120 scholarship every year to help international students from 70 countries. We want to remind everyone that Brunel has a commitment for multiculturalism. Our campus is extremely diverse, and we proud ourselves into constantly checking our diversity policies and making sure that our campus is an accepting place for people of all kinds and from all cultural backgrounds. We are a London campus. There are not many of these, so you will be allowed access to central London through the tube. Actually, you can use the Metropolitan or Piccadilly line to reach central London from the campus. We guarantee accommodation for students. We have more than 4,500 self-catering rooms on campus. Again, check the links on these slides for further information. And just to briefly mention, Brunel has showed over these past few months an outstanding commitment to tackle the current pandemic situation. Brunel is constantly providing new guidance and policies with regards to coronavirus, following the current scientific advice, particularly following the UK government very closely. We plan for a beginning of year that is as normal as possible, but please follow the link on this slide to keep being updated with information so that you know exactly what you can expect when you reach us. I think these are just some frequently asked questions. You can look it up online. I think I'm done. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so I see a couple questions. If anyone has any, please do just type them into the question box. We have one here from Joy. Can I choose my supervisor, or will it be allocated randomly?
Generally, you choose your supervisor, or rather, your supervisor chooses you because you choose the project. We are all really proud of providing you with best supervision according to our specialism. So, for example, if you want to work on video games and cinema, I'm the guy to talk to because I wrote my PhD dissertation and I have publications on this topic. Justin will be the person to supervise you for numerical design, and Mario, for example, will be thrilled to supervise you for an hardware project. That said, every student will have two supervisors, a first and a second supervisor. So you will not be alone with one person on your project, but you will always have two sets of eyes and two sets of skill checking in those two levels of the project, the theory and the practice. But yes, you will be able to choose your supervisor.
Okay, thank you. We have another one here regarding the Games Lab. Can I download software from university, or do I need to buy it from a website?
I'm not sure how I understand properly the question because I'm not sure how that relates. So the Games Lab, it's a space where we have a very high number of up-to-date machine, and all the software that you will need, it's preloaded on those machines. So you will access with your university account, you will have your own server space, so you will access your own desktop, but all the software will be already there, and you won't need to add any software to those machines because we will provide it. If you want to use your own machine, we constantly update students on deals and offers to get the software that we have already for free in the labs on your private machine. A lot of that software is for free, some you have to pay for. We try not to select software that is too expensive, so it should be feasible if you want to buy your own. And we constantly update students for deals.
Okay, thank you. We have one more here. What's a requirement for portfolio? Sure, you need that specified a bit.
We don't require a portfolio at the present time to enter. Actually, I realize now, did I skip the requirements? I think sorry, let me go. Oh, here are our requirements, which is crucial. What we do require, it's either a 2-2 UK honours degree or an equivalent internationally recognized qualification in one of the following fields: arts, humanities, social sciences, multimedia, digital design, computing, and electronical engineering. Other subjects that are not these ones might be considered, but we will require you a 2 years experience in the industry in order to demonstrate that you're ready to tackle the masters in games design, right? So we do not require portfolio, but we will consider your portfolio plus the 2 years experience in the industry if you don't have a degree in arts, humanities, social science, multimedia, digital design, computing, or electronic engineering. We also, and I should stress this, we also require a IELTS. We have language requirements. We require a 6.5 in the IELTS, a Pearson with a score of 58, or a TOEFL with a score of 92. Keep in mind that for the IELTS, you have to have a minimum of 6 in all areas. So the average must be 6.5, but you have to have at least 6 in all areas. For those of you who do not meet yet these language requirements, we do have a language centers that provides programs for you to catch up with your language skills. But keep in mind, you're going to write an 8,000 dissertation in video game theory and media philosophy. So you need to be fluent in English once you get there. Okay. No more questions yet, but like I said, if anyone has any, please do just pop them into the question box and we'll get those answered. Okay, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. If you, yeah,
I was just going to say, if you did have any, further questions or queries, you can contact our admissions department by emailing admissions@brunel.ac.uk. That's admissions@brunel.ac.uk. Or alternatively, if you visit the brunel.ac.uk website, there's a whole range of information which we regularly update. But yeah, I'll give it back to Ivan.
I think there is a last question about job opportunities from this subject during master study. It's 1 year intensive master, so we do not expect you to do any internship or work for any company at during this time. It would be quite presumptuous of us to expect that on top of the workload that it's already, this is a full-time master, that you would be able to work. You don't need an internship because you will do that on the master. Out of the master, you will have a portfolio. At the end of the master, you will have a portfolio with all your projects that you will be able to show to your employer and say, look, I've done this. These are the games that I can do. Employer in the game industry do care about the degree, but only to the extent that you can show what projects have you worked on. So, and to be completely honest, we distrust internships in the game industry because oftentimes you don't get hands-on in the project. You just get to assist someone who works on the project. But what the employer wants to see is what games have you designed? What is your work? And that's why we stress that the time that you have to use during the master is time that you have to spend on your games, designing your own projects. If this is all, thank you guys for having me. I hope this was interesting. I also want to stress you can email me at ivan.girina, Girina, at brunel.ac.uk. I'm not sure if there is a way, maybe I should implement my email address in these slides. I will do that. Will these slides be published somewhere?
Yeah, if you send me a copy after this, I will circulate them to all the attendees.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And you can see my email there on the slide. So have a lovely day, and I hope I will hear from you guys soon.